comes. Here it comes.
All right. You know what it is. You know who it is. We are back with another episode of the BG Perform podcast with my co-host, Jerry Hayes. Got an exciting announcement coming soon. This podcast is going to be a part of the Coach RX podcast network, which is going to be a network of podcasts that Coach RX is kind of putting together in a group that you're going to basically be able to find a bunch of podcasts from some of the best coaches in the world, in my mind, and we're going to be a part of it. So they're going to be throwing our podcast in there with basically it's going to be like a database for all the podcasts. You can go find the episodes, find the podcasts themselves, the links, everything's going to be right there. So you can check out our podcast, and you will also be able to check out everybody else's podcasts that they have that are part of it. I think right now they have about 10 coaches, if I'm correct. I got some cool artwork that they designed that's coming soon. Just getting a couple little tweaks to it. I haven't shown Jerry yet. But,
No, he hasn't. That's exciting.
Show you soon. And yeah, so that's going to be launching, I believe, this month because it is officially May, which means I'm fucking turning 30 this month. And
Woo!
I'm going through the feels.
Let's go.
I'm going through it. I'm thinking through it. Got a lot coming. I'm turning into an old man, 30 years old.
I've been old since I've been 23. Like I hit old man status early.
Yeah, you actually have. He's had gray hair since he was like 20.
No, I was 14 when I had my first two.
You're 14.
14 years old, I got my first two gray hairs. My family goes gray so early, but we keep it. So like, I don't know.
Omni Man over here has gray hair.
Yeah.
14. But yeah, so I'm turning 30 this month, and this has been a hell of a ride so far. So I'll see you guys now, Jay.
So I'm done. It's over. I'm retiring. I'll see you guys. The podcast is going nowhere, actually. This is the last one. Bye.
So been thinking through that whole process, going through the reflecting stages of what that's going to be. My birthday's at the end of May. If you do want to send any gifts, just reach out on Instagram. Definitely. But
you're going to get some weird shit.
I know. So today we're going to be talking about the 3 exercises we would do if we had to choose, or basically like if we had to choose 3 exercises that were the only things we could do, what would they be and why? And normally we'd have a little bit more of a layout here, but we thought it'd be really cool if we just thought through this process today with you guys and just talked, because for me, really, like, I have so many options. And I think my first question would be, how would we, and even my first question to Jerry would be, if we were choosing the 3, right? Like, maybe we should set the stage here a little bit, or set some parameters. Like we kind of mentioned before, is this going to be in a gym? Is this going to be in general? Are we going to be sticking with like a gym setting? What are we going to be sticking with?
Let's stick with a gym setting. I mean, Desert Island is fun, and I guess like you could still do it that way. So gym setting or not, if it's 3 exercises, it's 3 exercises.
Yeah, I think gym setting obviously makes it a lot easier, a lot more choices. Yeah. Desert setting,
son of a gun.
Your camera. Gym setting makes it a lot easier. Outside of that, obviously it gets a little bit harder. But when it comes to picking the 3 exercises, for me, my first immediate thought goes to not making it too easy, because I would want to pick exercises that obviously I would enjoy, that aren't too difficult to do, but get the job done. And I think a lot of people would probably be super basic and choose like power clean, or they would choose like thruster, they would choose maybe a deadlift, something like that. And I think those are great patterns to choose, or great movements that you can pick, because the beautiful thing about those movements is they cover the entire body, right? So for example, like a power clean and jerk would be you're taking the bar from the ground, which includes a deadlift, you're catching it, and it kind of includes a little bit of like a catch in the squat position, and then you're throwing the weight up overhead, which includes a press, which is very simple. You could just assume, right? But who wants to do a clean and jerk continuously without having to stop? Then that'd be the last thing you would do.
It sounds like a nightmare.
It sounds like a nightmare, really. So for me, my first thought goes, how do I pick movements that include other aspects that I know I won't get sick of because I've been doing for so long? And personally, I love rowing or pulling exercises or back. So with that, like my head kind of goes to, we talked about last week, the pull up. We talked a little bit about the, why the pull up is so effective and why it is such a good exercise. I know Jerry kind of talked about when you walk in the gym and you see someone doing a pull up, you're kind of like, all right, like that person has been training consistently, even though there's some people who can just do a ton of pull ups, but consistently, right? You see someone who's doing pull ups, chin over the bar, full rep pull ups. You know that there's someone who's been consistent in the gym for an extended period of time and someone who has been training regularly, right? And I think that, are you going to get your camera back?
I'm working on it. My charger is all the way downstairs in the kitchen, so I found another one. Right. I'm here. All right.
So the pull-up is one of those exercises that shows you know what you're doing. But one of my favorites, and I don't know if I would choose this, but like one of my favorite rowing exercises, and Nick can speak to this, is the seal row. I love the feeling of the seal row. I love the idea of the seal row. And always, like, when I do, because one of the things I look for in an exercise when I do it is not only is it tough, is it, does it do what it has to do, but does it make me feel fatigued? Because I do enjoy like the fatigue feeling of lifting heavy weight. And I think the seal row is one of those things that's always been something I could push the weight on, get that strength stimulus, and also feel like that central nervous system fatigue from it without taking away too much. Because obviously there's, like I said, there's easy movements we can choose, like a clean, like a snatch, like a deadlift, that they're just an overload of weight that causes us to feel that central nervous system fatigue. And realistically, for everything that they do provide, there is also a lot of risk involved with those movements, right? So, like, my mind kind of goes, and chime in, Jerry, obviously, but like, my mind goes to pulling because that's one of my favorite things to do, and I never get sick of it. And I think automatically, I'd say seal row, but I also think I would go with like a single arm variation because obviously that would be a little bit more core focused as well. You get a little bit like anti-rotation. You're still working like obviously bilateral movement, so you're working each arm individually, but you're still getting that strength stimulus. So my first probably go-to would probably be a 3-point row variation with my forearm like on the bench that I've been doing for a lot of people, but forearm on the bench and that kind of like the tip of the bench where like you
like
put
if it's on an incline, you mean?
Yeah, you put on an incline, you kind of hug your hand at the top, put your forearm there, your head's kind of in line with the arm or with your arm, and then you're rowing from that position, pulling through. I've been really feeling it. I got that from the guys at Prescript. They talked about it. And I've been doing that recently, and it's like a killer. And I've been feeling it like in my core. I've been getting good like stimulus through the shoulder as well, like good protraction, retraction in the shoulder. Nice full like I said, when I do that, I feel it in my back, and I feel like that's probably the number one movement I would choose, like my first draft pick off the board.
I would say that's a good one. And I was gonna say pull up, but then the other part of me was thinking like, this is forever.
Yeah.
Not a lot of like if I get into my like 80s and I'm still repping out pull-ups like a champion, awesome. But a lot can happen.
I'll be on steroids
now and then.
I'll be on steroids by then.
I will be a steroid by then.
I'm
gonna breathe in front of people and they're just gonna gain.
Breakfast, I'm gonna have Tren and Cheerios.
Tren and Cheerios. That's why I put creatine in our Cheerios. But no, I think a single arm variation is good because I was thinking everything is going to be unilateral, I think, on my list for the benefits of it based on the things that I was thinking. But that row, I would probably go 3-point row, not like forearm on it, but I'd probably go like maybe the standard 3-point row with your hand on the bench. And not do pull up only because.
Like, obviously, I also, we should. Like, obviously, if we're in a gym, this is a lot easier, but, like, obviously, we could choose, like, a seated row, but, like...
Salmon ladder.
Salmon
I want to be the Green Arrow. I'm doing a salmon ladder.
Which one is that? Is that the...
Salmon ladder's the one where you climb from Ninja
Oh,
Warrior.
salmon ladder. Okay, okay. I
Yeah.
was thinking of the Jacob's ladder. You know that like.
Oh,
Wait, what?
or no, that's the one you just climb.
It's
That's
someone
the
who
one you
like just
climb.
like infinitely climb. I was in the gym the other day and I saw someone on there, and I turned to Nick. I was like, I don't think I would ever be caught dead on a Jacob's ladder. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know why, but I feel like that's just like I wouldn't come to the gym to crawl on.
Dude, that's so funny because I remember I was working. I'm not gonna say which coach and which school because that'll give it away. But I was working with a fellow coach at a school one time, and they had one of those in the gym. And I looked at him and I was like, "How often do you use that thing?" And he goes, "Never." And I was like, "Yeah, I thought so." I was like, "Why is it in here?" He goes, "School wants it here." And I was like, "Of course they do." Like,
Yeah,
that's like a sport coach's move is be like, "Let's get a Jacob's ladder in the weight
I've never
room."
even heard of it though before. Like the last couple of years.
Really?
I mean, I've heard of it, but I've never actually seen one besides when I just got back to Albany. I started training at ABC.
Yeah, they're it's a goofy machine. But anyway,
Yeah, I don't know, but that would not be one of my movement choices.
yeah.
But I think I think what I was gonna try to get at there was, a cable machine obviously makes sense, but like, I want this to kind of be something that, like realistically thinking, right? Like if we're realistically gonna choose, like if I had to do 3 exercises for the rest of my life, what would they be, and why? And I think that version, like that specific variation of the single arm row, would be my number one choice because I think it gives us a lot of different aspects, right? Also, like I said, we're trying to be like, avoid the big movements here, like thruster, what do you call it? Like, what's that one move that you do like everything in one? The man maker?
Man maker, yeah.
You do like row and then push up and then squat and thruster.
And
It's
then
like, all right, cool. Like, this is not fun. You know what I mean?
And then you stick one foot in and one foot out, one
So
foot
I
in
think
and shake
I
it
think
all about. Yeah.
I would choose that specific variation of the row because it feels really good on the core, so you're able to work on the core as well. But I'm still able to move like really good weight, so it's not something where I'm like limited by the pattern or limited by the skill of the movement. It's just prop yourself up on the bench, get that position with the arm. You're still, because of that, you're able to kind of get that anti-rotation with the row, and you're feeling it on both sides. Obviously able to move a decent amount of weight. Like I can move 60, 70, 80 pounds on there, and that's a really good row. And get that strength stimulus, or you can still get that hypertrophy stimulus. So I think I'm going to officially say that would be my number one choice.
I would agree because I was looking at some type of pulling movement for upper body because, in my opinion, I think it's a little better to have that pulling strength than it is to have the pushing strength for upper. So if I had to choose one upper, it's going to be a pulling motion. But I will also say lower body, my next choice.
Well, so if we pick row, right? That would be
Yeah.
that's just where my head goes. Then realistically, we have, if we broke this down to like the main movement patterns, right? We have squat, hinge, push, pull, single leg, carry, core, right? So those are kind of the things we'd like to cover in some aspect in this, right?
And that row covers some core components too.
Yeah.
Which is huge.
Yeah.
My next one, I think you're gonna agree.
Let's see it.
Walking lunges. Maybe.
I'm
just thinking like we were talking about it last time, the exaggerated gait cycle.
I know, it probably makes sense. I just hate doing walking lunges.
Oh yeah, they suck, but they're gonna keep you feeling good for a long time. And like as you progress, like say you're at 105 years old and you just can't hold those weights anymore.
So how do you feel about instead a box step up or step down? Do you think that's actually no? I have never mind. I know what I'm gonna do. I haven't.
Let me hear it.
Sled push.
Sled push. Okay, so the minimal eccentric
with the chest on the bar or like on
that's
the
actually really good. Yeah.
position there, and I would do a full leg extension sled push.
Yeah.
Like really working on driving that back leg, getting full extension, fully straighten, hips through, drive that knee forward. So that's like working on that gate cycle.
Yeah, you're doing arms close, not out.
I always keep my arms close. I don't like just relax because I know a lot of people.
You hold like an isometric.
I push forward with my arms. I just kind of lean my body weight into it, and I've always found that that's really effective for the legs. Like I feel that's probably one of my favorite things. I think I talked about this on the last video, if I'm not mistaken, because that was one of my underrated movements.
Yeah.
And I just always feel with the sled push, that specific like close variation, it's a lot of leg driven, right, pattern. It keeps you at the angle that you're still working on like sprint mechanics or running mechanics, and it drives a lot of glute action with the hip extension, and obviously like keeping that position. And you can load that. I was gonna say very bad swear word, but you can load that thing up, and you could have a lot of weight on there, and you could essentially get the same stimulus that you would from a deadlift or a squat in that pattern with way less injury risk. And I did some some sled push this week for my leg day, or my lower, like first portion of the lower, and I forgot how much I loved them, and I'm definitely going to keep doing them.
So you know what's crazy is I love walking lunges for what they do. They suck because they like hurt. I'd much rather do a walking lunge than a sled push, but I agree with your choice of sled push. It's a really good option.
I think to me, the sled push makes the most sense because, even if you were thinking, right, because even like you said with the pull-up, like, if we're talking about the rest of our life, the sled push is going to be something regardless you're going to be able to maintain and progress. The walking lunge, realistically, at some point is going to become a hassle for people, whether it's due to load bearing issues, hopefully you're healthy at that point that you can continue to do them, but you don't really have to worry about or think about it with a sled push so much that if I'm 60 or 70, 80 even, that's going to be a movement that you could do with load and get something out of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Because I also if I'm thinking about this, if I was going to choose 3 movements, I'd also want the movements to be lower skill movements that can be high intensity if necessary and don't require as much. Because think about it with a walking lunge, there might be 3 or 4 things that actually get in the way of it being high intensity. It could be grip strength, it could be thoracic mobility, it could be hip extension. Does that make sense? Those things could get in the way, whereas a sled push in my mind is as long as you have the sled and you got some weight, you could essentially anybody could move that thing for a designated amount of steps.
You said something there that really caught my attention, and I think it's driving home the last one as a really good option, and it's just a staggered stance deadlift, with kettlebells or something, because grip strength is huge, especially as you age and you start to lose grip strength. Training it is going to be really important. Are we allowed to use straps?
No, I don't think so. No.
I'm still going to do it.
You're going to choose that for your last one? Or I
don't know.
Well, I mean, we have to think here because we haven't even chosen a press. So you're going to
That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
We would need some type of pressing movement. So I definitely wouldn't be able to choose that as a third. I would stick with the sled push because I really think you'd get everything. You wouldn't really have to focus on the hinge so much. You can, but I don't think you'd need to focus on it as much as you think you would.
True. And we also chose row, so we get grip with rows. I forgot that we did choose row.
Are we choosing together, or are we going to choose our own?
I'm going based off of what you're saying, but I'm also trying to give my own option. So you convinced me with the row. I was yeah, that's a really good one, because I was gonna choose pull up, but then I was no, this is forever.
Yeah,
I had to remember this is.
You made a good point when you said the forever thing, because that really is a huge factor in what you would choose, if we're being honest. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because forever to me is just I'm just gonna do it every week, but then I had to think forever is until I die. So
that's gonna be a big movement to select. So
yeah, I was thinking forever is short term for some reason, as if forever doesn't mean literally forever.
Yeah, exactly. Your forever could be short.
Pardon?
What's up?
Don't do it. Don't do it.
So we got the 3-point row, that specific variation. We got a sled push, close sled push, working on that full extension with the leg. And then for me, then my mind goes to obviously upper body. So bench obviously would be a good one. Shoulder press would be a good one. I think, what?
Dude, an incline press would probably be a really good option for a press
I was actually just thinking the same thing.
because you get a little bit of the shoulders, you get the triceps. You would with a flat, but like the so fun fact, that whole angle thing. So if we're talking flat versus 30 versus 60, that 30-degree mark is going to be pretty significant for chest, but you also get some deltoid and tricep work.
Yeah, so I think like incline would be a really good choice for that simple thing because I feel like at the end of the day, if we're going to choose an angle for a bench, it'd probably have to be like that would have to be the choice because you could still get a really good, like obviously you're going to probably be able to lift the most with flat bench, but
Which
you're
wouldn't
still
even
going to be able to,
important at that point.
yeah, even like maybe not like a full like incline, like one of those low inclines.
That's what I mean. 30 degrees is pretty
Oh,
low.
that's
Because
what you're
usually, like an incline bench is usually around, it's between like, I think 35 and 45.
Mm-hmm.
They're all a little bit different depending on the brand. But like at least the ones that are stuck with barbell, which I would most likely just go dumbbell with it. Not most likely, I would.
No, yeah, 100%.
If I had to choose it forever, like I'm not using a barbell forever. But if you do like, as you go more towards 60, your anterior deltoids and your tricep kick in more. And you still get upper chest. And then with flat, you get most chest. You still get deltoid and tricep. But in between at that 30, you get a lot of chest. And then again, you still get an assist. So 30 is like that magic spot where you kind of hit all three of them with the most chest activation.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, like, what else would there be? Like, obviously, there'd be flat bench. There'd be, like we said, there's overhead press. There's push press, which I really do love push presses.
Like with landmines, too. You could even think about landmine shit.
Landmine. Yeah, I mean, landmine would be really good, actually. The only problem is with the landmine, it's not really that loadable, I guess. And there's components of, like, having, like, if you do a half kneel or if you're standing.
Which, again, as you age, can start to become a little harder because it's more of a skill. So, like, if you're on a bench, you're lying flat.
Yeah.
That's very low skill compared to landmine.
Yeah. Then there's... What else? I don't know. I really can't think of anything else. I think, like, dumbbell incline would have to be, like, the choice.
Yeah. Because I think you're, like I said, you're hitting all those muscles that you would hit for a push.
Yeah, because if you... Or go ahead. Sorry.
And I was going to say, you're hitting all the muscles you would hit for a push. Loadability is pretty high.
Yeah.
The skill level's fairly low for a press. If you're looking at all the different pressing exercises, it's pretty low. And you still get a ton of stability work if you're doing it with dumbbells. And there's the whole like factor of like stability through the core and body. Like you don't really use it that much, but it's there. Like you have their feet wide, butts down, shoulders are down.
Yeah, but I mean, like either way, like you said, because I was just thinking, like if we go through all those movements, right? The row works on the core and grip, and bicep,
and
even.
So here's a question, really quick: are we allowed to, if we're doing that type of row, are we allowed to put more emphasis on rotation one day and not on the other? Like, can we add a variation to that row, or are we stuck with it? Because that's a whole other level too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be. Yeah, I'm sure you could change the grip. It's just like you can't do any other movements. So like that.
Yeah, because I was gonna say like if you can like maybe 1 week add much more of a rotation, 1 week add on anti-rotation, is that allowed, or are we just saying?
Sure.
Cool. That is perfect.
It's America.
America.
This is your choice.
Which reminds me, the other day, really quick, my niece asked me a question, and she was just asking me a bunch of questions, like random ones, like "What's your favorite food? Who's your favorite ex?" And I was like, "What kind of question is that?" And then she was like, "What's your favorite country?" And before I said anything, my nephew he sits up, he goes, "America!" I was like, "Oh my god, that was so awesome."
One time I was in England, and I was walking down the street, and there was like 10 kids from like a local school that were coming down the street and like asking a question. And obviously I was from America and I was with a bunch of people from England, and they stopped the guys and they stopped our group, and they were like, "Oh, can we ask you a couple questions?" Actually, they're like, "Can we ask you a couple questions?"
Super proper.
And they stopped, and they were like, the people I was with, they were like, "Oh, he's from America, ask him." So they started asking me a bunch of questions. They were like, "Oh, what's your favorite street? What's your favorite like restaurant here? Blah blah blah." And they're like, "What's your favorite thing about. They asked me like, what was my favorite thing about England or the area I was in, and I was like something. I forgot exact what the question was, but I was basically like, "Oh, this reminds me of America, and America's the greatest country on earth." And everyone was just kind of like, "Okay." It was just.
Dude, you might as well have just been like, well, it reminds me of America, and it's way better than your shit.
I was just like, "Yeah, America's the greatest country on earth," and they were just like, "Okay." They were like, they couldn't have been older than like 9 or 10, just like asking
That
questions.
fellow with the beard was pretty weird, huh? It's a strange chap.
But yeah, so that was funny. Um,
Anyway, back to
back
it.
back on board. So yeah, so I think row covers bicep.
Hmm.
We're getting a little bit even like rear delt on the pull. We're getting, lat. We're getting core. We're getting grip. So that's a pretty good
If we
set.
could, how is this happening?
Oh my God,
I'm
Jared.
literally charging it right now.
So we're getting all 5 of those. And then we have the incline press, which is covering tricep, chest, still getting aspects of like, not so much, but like, scapula, because we're loading the scapula through that position as we keep the dumbbell coming down. Keeping the rest of the body tight is obviously going to be working on that as well. And then we have the sled push. The sled push obviously is going to be focusing on, if we're keeping the upper body tension tight, we're going to be working on loading the position through there. We're also going to be loading glutes, hamstrings, quads, calves, the foot complex, like obviously gait cycle with the hip extension and hip flexion. And to me, like that's about everything you need
There's
inside of a
also
training session.
anti-flexion and extension in the core too
Yeah,
for
and
a
I think
sled
like,
push.
and the reason like the way that I wanted to choose these movements was not like easy basic shit, right? That's someone who's going to be like, oh, let me just choose, you know, let me choose like I said at the beginning, a power clean, a thruster, something where
Yeah.
it's just like, yeah, obviously it covers everything. That's an easy choice, but like thinking about this a little bit deeper, I think to me that does a really good job, and it actually covers most things better than I thought it was going to at the beginning, like the movements, because I didn't even think about that, like all the things those few movements do cover. Any honorable mentions?
Honorable mentions. That's a good question because I feel like when it comes down to it, we chose ones that are really good at kind of covering all movements or at least basic patterns of human movement. And I'm trying to think if there's any other ones. Like I honestly like step up could be there, but again, there's a fall risk as you
Yeah,
age,
I
and the
would
bike
honestly.
probably
I
wouldn't
think
be as
I
high.
think one of the few things, like one of my honorable mentions, would be the assault bike, um, because I
Mm,
think that's something regardless you can implement into a program at any point and still get a benefit from it. Like I was talking about in the last episode, whether it's aerobic work, whether it's anaerobic work, whether it's like strength power work, like there's so many aspects of it that give a great that give you a lot of stimulus inside of a training session that I think people could get a ton from it in return. And I think the assault bike would be like, for example, if I had to switch it out, like I think it would be an honorable mention, obviously, but I think I would choose I'd probably take out, I'd probably have to take out the sled push and leave the assault bike. That would probably make the
it would
most sense.
cover some extension, some. It would have
I
like a little push
wouldn't
of the
give you
pull with
full
the.
extension, but like, honestly, I'd probably, that's hard. I'd
That's
probably remove.
another if drowning
Actually,
isn't
wouldn't even matter.
something we need to worry about. Swimming could be another good one too, but then again, like
Yeah,
because it's low impact, there is some resistive force. It gives you the cardiovascular output.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, the assault bike. I think the assault bike would be one of my honorable mentions. I think the farmer's carry would be an honorable mention. I know that grip is
Yeah, I was
obviously
thinking
like,
about that too.
grip would obviously be a thing in that, but I also think that or actually like a yoke carry or something like that.
See, I think yoke has too much. I think it might be too much to do yoke. I would say farmer before yoke, because the grip is important and you get it from rowing.
Love that.
But
I used to love a yoke carry. When we were doing it when I was in Florida, we were doing like a strongman Saturday, and the yoke carry was just such a Oh, I used to love doing that thing.
Yeah, but picture yourself at 80 doing a yoke carry.
Just picture me. Yes.
Yes, I did. It looks great.
I did it. Remember how I said I was going to be having Trend and Cheerios? We carry a yoke 50 yards, 170 kilos on it. Fuck pounds.
You get so
But
big, you become the nursing home.
yeah, so I think assault bike would be an honorable mention. I also think yoke carry might be an honorable mention for me. I think flat bench would definitely be an honorable mention. And I think I think seal row too. I think seal row would probably be an honorable mention for me because it is a a bilateral movement, but it's just something that feels good when I do it. So I would probably try to keep that in to what I do, and then anything else, just regular sled push.
I mean, you could argue instead of maybe farmer, you do like a suitcase march, work on some balance a little bit,
Yeah,
or like a suitcase carry.
yeah,
But I think the seal row is great because like you can work your back, obviously, but it doesn't. I feel like it doesn't cover enough that you can get out of a row for me to put it on my honorable mentions.
Well, then
But I mean, if it feels good, if it's what
what would yours be? At sign.
at sign, yeah, at Coach Jerry Hayes. I don't really know, man. I feel like suitcase carry is an honorable mention, or at least like a suitcase march. I think that that's good because you get a lot of core stability work, but you also work on grip, balance, even. I was thinking about how you said box step up, and I was trying to make it a little easier, and I was thinking like a single leg squat to box, but even like that's not too loadable, and the range of motion is minimal. Maybe a single leg press.
You get down with that, yeah. Leg press would
Yeah.
be another good one, actually.
I would say single leg press if anything.
Actually,
Would be one for me.
I probably would throw in leg press as an honorable mention as well.
Yeah.
Just because that is something that you can still train, like we talked about, train the absolute strength of the legs in like a safe way.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I think we're talking leg press, flat bench, seal row, and what was the other one I said?
Are you still keeping in the sled push?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, assault bike.
Oh,
What?
you're just talking honorable mentions. My bad.
Yeah. Did I
Okay.
say one more? I feel like I said something else.
You said
Assault
seal
bike,
row, assault bike, leg press. You
leg
said
press.
farmer carry or yoke carry.
Oh, yoke carry. That was it. Yoke carry.
Yeah.
So those would be my honorable mentions. But then the three that I would choose would be specific 3-point variation arm on the top of the incline with that big rowing range of motion through there. Second would be the sled push with the arms close to the body and your body close to the sled itself, taking those big giant steps through that gait cycle with that full hip extension. And then number 3 would be the incline dumbbell bench press. So those would be my 3, if I had to do it for the rest of my life, exercises. That is what I'd choose.
I'm right there with you, except I'm changing my row.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with the standard like bodybuilding style row, knee and hand on the bench
Okay.
for a little extra stability once you get to those older years, because you can still get some rotation in there, anti-rotation if you wanted to focus on that. I'm definitely keeping sled push because that one's goated. Arm positioning, I feel like it's still better, especially when you're older, to keep your hands close.
That
I
makes
think
sense.
you can get a lot of benefit for keeping your arms extended, or yeah, you can still get a lot of benefit from it. But I think like as you age, strength output is going to maintain a higher level if you have your arms closer. And then the last one, what was the? I said leg press. I said row. Oh, the incline dumbbell bench. I'm sticking with for sure. If anything, I might even say like make that unilateral too, and just do a single arm. Because again, it's just
No,
more.
I mean, I just feel like I always feel like when I do that single arm, I never get like a full strength feeling because it's like obviously you're keeping balance, you know?
Yeah, but then again, like I don't know if the strength output is high enough doing a bilateral versus unilateral to make me want to keep it. Because I could still go pretty heavy with a unilateral one, and you get a lot of like again more core stability, which is huge as you age. And once you get older, like you don't need to be
You couldn't
pushing
need it because you're taking away
90%.
variation of the row, so you'd probably need something similar to that.
Yeah, yeah. So
All
I think
right.
those are my three. Yeah.
Cool. Definitely. I mean, I don't have anything to say to that. I think that's good. I think we both explained what we're looking for. I think we had some good alternatives to each, and then the honorable mentions. So,
The ultimate question for it though is, does that essentially help you and all 99 of your elderly friends take out a gorilla
I
in a
was
fight?
literally gonna. That was literally gonna be the last thing I say.
Were you really?
I swear to God, I was about to wait for what you were gonna say, and I was thinking like, how do I fit this in?
Dude, I love it. Yeah, so essentially, if you and all your old buddies, 99 of them, assuming they're all still around because they still lift and they still work out with you, so they're in tip top shape, can you and 99 of your old buddies take on one gorilla in a fight and win?
That is the question. I got some good buddies, so I think
I think if I take 99 of my good buddies, that gorilla's going down.
I think if I got 99 of my buddies, I would probably be okay. I'd probably go get Ian, Paul,
Yeah,
Jocko.
just get
I'd
all the.
probably
Just start submitting a gorilla.
I'd probably who else would I get? All right, hold on. One more question. 5 people right now. You plus 4 others. Who are you choosing to go fight a gorilla?
Oh man, any people in the world?
Yeah.
Does their age now matter?
No. Whoever. Prime. Prime whoever.
Prime Tyson.
I'd probably take Prime Connor just to get in his head.
He'd start moving around on the ground like he was a gorilla, and he'd be staring at him.
He'd be like, "You're looking at the gorilla."
I'm gonna rip your head off and wear it to my next fight.
So Prime Connor, I'd probably take.
Dude, Connor would bring the forged Irish stout and get the gorilla drunk. That's what it
I'm
was.
talking about Prime Connor. Though. This is before.
True. Before forged.
This is like Connor who fought Aldo.
Yeah. Prime Connor.
Like,
Okay.
you know, so I'd take Prime Connor. Who would you say? You said Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson.
I feel
Oh,
like
okay. I'm gonna take Brian Shaw.
Brian Shaw. Okay. Okay.
Brian Shaw for a little bit of strength.
I saw Eddie Hall said that like if there was 2 prime Eddie Halls, he thinks he could do it.
Yeah, right, bro.
I don't know. I doubt it. But
Dude, a gorilla has 9 times the strength of a human male.
Eddie Hall's like one of the strongest people on the earth, though.
Yeah, true. I'd choose Brian Shaw over Eddie Hall simply because of weight and like size.
I feel like he would be just as fucking big, bro. Like he's got. I mean, obviously gorillas are big, but like Brian Shaw, bro.
Brian Shaw is 430 pounds in season, I think. Off season, probably close to 450.
Problem is they would gas. That's the only issue.
The gorilla gasses too, though.
Yeah, but I think Brian Shaw would probably gas before the gorilla.
That's yeah. Well, yeah, he'd gas before the gorilla, but that's why you got Tyson.
Tyson, I feel like would actually fight him. Like wouldn't even second guess it. Like
He'd
Prime
bite him.
Tyson, I feel like he would actually fight the gorilla. Like
Well,
just
the reason I chose Tyson is obviously because he's an animal, but then on top of that, like, you know, the ear bite thing. I feel like you get Prime Tyson where he's a little rabid, he'll bite that gorilla. You know,
so Tyson, Brian Shaw, Prime
Tyson,
Connor,
Brian Shaw.
Prime Connor to get in his head. Who else?
Ah, man, this is tough.
Just quick off the dome. Think 2 more people.
Quick off the dome.
I'd probably pick Leonardo da Vinci because he'd probably lock him in a cage and analytically just beat him.
I was thinking like who was like a savage, probably Attila the Hun.
Oh, Genghis Khan.
Genghis Khan. Yeah, Genghis Khan is there. Hundo P.
Genghis
Khan
Khan,
is there.
Alexander the Great,
Yep.
Mike Tyson, Brian Shaw,
Brian Shaw.
and Prime Conor McGregor.
Yep. All of them in their prime.
All of them in their prime. Genghis. Oh yeah, he's done. Gorilla's done.
Do they get weapons or is it bare fist? Bare fist, right?
Yeah, bare fist.
That's tough. That's tough.
Alexander tamed Bucephalus. I'm pretty sure he could kill the gorilla.
I don't know if that's happening, but I'm putting money on them doing better than anyone else out of a team of 5.
All right. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. As you
Thank
see,
you for putting up with me and my crappy battery in my camera.
Yeah, Jerry's camera broke on us twice, but we went over the 3 exercises we would do for the rest of our life today. If you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, thoughts, feedback, drop it below in the comments, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.
Deuces.